Hello, my name is Dakota. I'm 14 years old and a freshman at Vail Academy in high school. When I was 2.5 years old, I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I received 2 years and 2 months of chemotherapy and iron steroids. I'm fighting for a cure not only for myself, but especially in memory of my grandpa Bob, who passed away last October from end-stage metastatic prostate cancer. He was only 55. I'm also fighting in memory of my grandma Chris, who passed away last March from mesothelioma, and my Aunt Sherry, who passed away on New Year's Eve from pancreatic cancer. I have had many family members stricken with different forms of this cancer. One grandfather, one great-grandfather, two great-grandmothers, 3 aunts, and 1 uncle. When I was asked to give this introduction last year, I didn't really know what to expect, but it went okay, and everyone really seemed to do it. Then this year, I was asked by Julie to give the introduction again, and I was flattered, but again, also uncertain because I didn't know how it would react the second time around. She told me that herself and the other committee members thought it was important for everyone to hear to see the message of fighting back against it, coming from someone so young. They also told me that they had a large number of teenagers sign up this year for the relay, and they thought it might help them better understand why they're here. You know what? They were right. As I look around and I see so many young people here today that are around my age, it is really the young people in this crowd that are going to be the face of cancer research in this country for however many years. And I am very proud of us all for standing up and fighting back. I would like to share with all of you a little insight about my cancer and the treatment I went through. I know many of you won't be surprised, but each survivor's story is a little different. However, for me to do this, I will be relying on my parents' memory because I was too young and don't remember much of it on my own, which is a good thing, or so I've been told. I was 2.5 years old in June of 1999 when I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I just remember that I was very sick and that my stomach hurt all the time. My liver and spleen were swelled to almost 3 times their normal size. My parents had taken me to see the pediatrician a couple times during the week, trying to figure out what was wrong. The pediatrician decided that I needed to go to the ER. I arrived at the ER around 5 p.m. on Friday night, which was my dad's 22nd birthday, and by 2 a.m. Saturday morning, I'd been diagnosed with leukemia. I stayed in the hospital for 6 days and received my Broviac catheter, which I still have the scar from. And I also received 2 rounds of chemo before I ever went home. Thankfully, I went home on Mom's 21st birthday. I was home for 12 hours and my parents had to rush me back to the ER. Chemo had done its job and it had killed a lot of the cancer cells. But in the process of killing the cancer cells, my kidneys were overwhelmed and couldn't get rid of the dead cells fast enough. My kidneys had almost shut down and my calcium potassium levels were way off. It was affecting my heart. I spent the next 5 days in the pediatric ICU on heart monitors and received a lot of different medicines while the doctors tried to keep me alive. I was admitted to the hospital one more time again in November with a normal cold and a cough. And I was very weak and needed 4 days of IV fluids and medication before I could ever go home. I was lucky from then on for the most part, and I didn't need to be admitted to the hospital again. Over the next 2 years, I received chemo management through my Broviac catheter, intramuscular inspiration, numerous spinal taps, bone marrow aspirations from my hips, chemo treatments directly into my spine, bone marrow biopsies, and a whole host of medicines. I received my last treatment the day before my 5th birthday and was thrown one heck of a party the next day. It will have been 12 years since my diagnosis date this coming June, and I'm happy to say that I'm considered cured. I did not have it easy, but I'm glad that I was so young and I don't have to remember a lot of it. I see my parents start to cry when they try to tell me stories or even talk about it. My parents told me that one of the worst parts was that it all seemed so normal to me. Heck, I didn't even know what the difference was. I went to preschool when I was 4. I still had my Broviac catheter. I had about 15 inches of tubing that stuck out of my chest, and most of it was under a bandage, but the end of it was loose. My grandma Eileen had sewn a tab into all of my undershirts so that my parents could pin the extra tubing down so that it wouldn't hang free and couldn't get pulled. So here I am at my first day of preschool, and this little girl saw the safety pin sticking through my shirts. And she asked what the pin was for. I told her that it's for my tube, silly. She, of course, didn't understand what I was talking about. I tried to explain it to her a bunch of times that the pin was holding my tube in place. She didn't get it, so I finally stopped trying. I came home that night and complained to my mom that I must be in the wrong class at school because they're all babies at that school. The silly little kids didn't even know what a tube was. I didn't think I should have to go back. I did. So here I am today, still trying to explain to other kids what cancer is and why they should care and why they should help. At least now most of my friends understand how important this fight is to me, and hopefully some of you do too. I would like to tell you a story about the importance of caregivers, if I may. My parents were my caregivers. But what some people don't realize is exactly what range of emotion a caregiver goes through, and what strength it takes for them to put in 100% every day. When I was admitted to the hospital, my mom and dad's families were there as the news came in. And as the night went on, the news started to filter through my mom and dad's friends. Like I said earlier, I spent 6 days in the hospital in my first stint. Sorry, typo, it's supposed to be spent. And I spent another 5 days after a brief stop at home. My dad was an only child, and he will tell you that his friends are his brothers. Those friends of my mom and dad's took shifts, and they too stayed all 11 days in the hospital with us. Some of them drove hundreds of miles in the middle of the night while away at college as the phone calls came in. They were there to support my parents when the doctors took me away for treatment, and They were there to support my parents when the doctors took me away for treatments, and my parents were forced to sit idly by and watch my pain. Their friends and family helped share the pain and share that fear, and share the burden of way too many what-ifs. So I just want everyone here to remember to help each other and understand that sometimes caregivers need caregivers too. The last story that I will share is about the first night I was in the hospital. It was about 4 a.m. and I had been poked and prodded all night. I had been forced to drink the contrast fluid for a CT scan, which I remember was really gross. I had an IV that had taken 5 attempts that was now finally placed in the top of my hand, and so on. Basically, I had had enough. It was about 4 a.m., and my dad says that I was sleeping in bed with my mom, and the nurse came in to check my vitals. So she was checking my vitals and whatnot, and she woke me up. My dad says that I sat straight up in the bed and told the nurse in the meanest growling voice that a little 2-year-old girl could produce, "You take your hands off me." My dad said that he went to get out of the chair to tell me not to talk like that, but the nurse turned around and stopped him in his tracks. She told him, "You just sit back down in that chair, Dad. This one's going to be just fine. You don't worry about the feisty ones." That little girl is a fighter, and I still am. The money that is donated to the Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society does a lot of things. Most importantly, it helps people get well, it helps people stay well, and it helps find cures through research, and it helps patients fight back. I'm still here today because of people like you here in attendance, and people all across America that donate to Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society. And with your help, I will continue to fight back. I would like to thank each and every one of you for listening to my story. I hope you will continue to donate a fraction of your time, your energy, your love, and of course your money to help fight alongside me. I especially want to thank all of the caregivers that have given so much of themselves for each and every one of us. I would like to thank you on behalf of not only myself, but for all of the survivors that are here tonight and those survivors who are not able to be here in person. I would congratulate everyone's successes and pray for all those still fighting. Please join us to celebrate, remember, and fight back. Again, my name is Dakota Smith. I'm 14 years old, and I am a survivor.